Hey everyone, let's have a quick chat about The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is of course the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles and comes after The Name of the Wind, which is with 700 pages only half as big as The Wise Man's Fear. So it's 1,300 pages, at least my edition, and it's basically continuing the story of Quoth in his youth. In The Name of the Wind, the story was set. We met Quoth and learned about his past and his upbringing, and he's telling the story. So in the second book, we enter his teenage years, we learn a lot about his experiences there. And I don't really want to go into detail, but I still want to talk about the book, not about the story in particular, but about reading this book. As I said, it's 1,300 pages long, so it's very long. And despite a lot of things happening, there's not a lot going on. It feels similar to just normal life. You go through experiences, you have things happening, and then you move on to the next, and then something else happens, and then you move on. There's not a lot of story progress in particular, yet it's an interesting story. The writing is amazing. You just feel like the character is telling the story to you. You feel deeply involved. You really like hanging out with him and his friends and going through his experiences. And I love that about the book. I didn't particularly like the length of the book because for me, I'm a slow reader. Because so many things are happening. There's little sub-stories that happen and then you move on to a new sub-story. And I found myself that by the end of a sub-story, I was ready to move on to the next thing. And that happened a lot. And I also found that because the story is not really progressing, it's just hanging out with your friends, which is cool, but you don't really get forward in the story in any way that where you think like, is this plot moving? So you really feel it can go on forever, and it kind of does. So for me, this could have been split in 2 books and probably would have been more enjoyable, which doesn't work with the idea of the 3 days telling the story. But I really struggled getting through this book, not because I didn't like it, just because there wasn't that much happening that made you move forward. There were slow patches. There were patches where it was like, what is actually going on here? Do we need to be this descriptive, or can we move on to the next part? Yet I still loved it. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the world. And it's sort of like accompanying someone in his life, which is also cool. So can you see what I'm talking about here? If you have read the book, just let me know in comments what you thought. I like what happens in the story, but the reading process is sometimes tedious. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.